Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is the meeting of Frome Town Council. I'm Philip Campagna, and I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. Just to remind everyone in the room, we've got people online joining us this evening. For those of you in the room, a little housekeeping. The emergency exit is at the rear corner of the room, and the assembly point is the far side of the car park. Toilets are at the end of the corridor on the right, and there is an accessible toilet to the right of the lift. Help yourselves, as I think most of you have, to tea and coffee and refreshments. And thank you, Councillor Jones, for providing biscuits this evening. Tonight, Paul will clerk, Laura and Sarah will manage the minutes, question boards, participant settings, and the IT generally. The meeting will be recorded, and we are live to our YouTube channel. For those councillors attending via Zoom, and I know we have at least one, please use the yellow hand for questions, and for anyone else, ask questions through the Q&A board. First on the agenda are apologies, which I know we have some. Over to Paul.
Yes, we have apologies from Anita Collier, Mel Usher, and Lisa Merriweather. I hadn't received apologies from Andy Rentmore. Okay.
And also Max online. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Those are the, yep. So those are the apologies. Andy Jones and Fiona Burrows seconding. Yep, okay. Do we have any declaration of councillors' interests at all? Fiona?
As Nikki and I are presenting later on the Climate and Ecological Emergency Work Programme, it does include a number of organisations that I am associated with, including a pecuniary interest. As it is just for information, I've been advised by Paul Wynne that it's fine. The pecuniary interest is Adventure, which is mentioned in relation to 2 projects. So if you have any questions about that, direct them to Nikki. And then I'm also councillor representative on the board of Green and Healthy Frome, currently interim chair of Broadway Community Gardens Association, which is also mentioned in the paper.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Any others? Anne Hills.
I'll just mention that I am involved as a volunteer with Prosper Frome, and they are one of the people in the community hub, which gets mentioned later.
Thank you. And Andy Jones.
Yeah, Broadway Community Gardens is one of mine.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Any other declarations? No. Okay. Thank you all very much for that. Next item is to approve the minutes of the last meeting on the 6th of September 2023. Questions, Fiona?
Yes, one's relating to it. So at the last meeting, Adam asked a question about where the money for the football club came from, and I thought, oh, I'll quickly check online, and then realised that because the decision to buy it was made, because at the time it was commercially sensitive, it was made privately. I don't think we've ever sort of published exactly where the funds have come from. So can we please, for transparency's sake, do that? I'm sure it's like in all the, in all our financial reports, but the paper isn't published.
So you'd like some clarification on that, yeah?
Yeah, I just think for transparency's sake, it'd be good to publish it. Yeah, yep. Thank you. And then one more thing is in the meeting minutes, it says that I don't or find the programme-led approach difficult to understand. It's not that. It's that the 2 different structures make things quite confusing, and I don't think that the new structure of the finances makes things easy to understand for people on the outside. I'm on page 5 or 7. So it just says I don't understand the programme, which wasn't what I was saying.
It might have been what you said, though.
It might be what I said, but wasn't the point that I was making.
Do you want to propose a change to the wording?
Okay, Fiona said she found she doesn't find, I mean, it was related to a different thing. So the new structure of the budget, easy to understand.
So the new structure of the budget, you're finding...
I think it makes it harder to understand than easier to understand.
Is everyone okay if I make those changes? I think it's not something we need to vote on. I'll make those changes and get Philip to initial those.
Okay, any other comments regarding the minutes? Can we have someone propose to accept the minutes, please? Anne Hills, seconded by Andy Jones.
That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you all very much. The next item is a slight departure from our normal agenda, and I'd like to move over there, if I may. It's working, great. Just a quick word about the Mayor's commendation. When I went to have a meeting with Paul and Laura, not long after I received this from this lovely person over here, I was asked, what would you like? And I said, well, what can I do? And they said, not very much, but if you come up with a couple of ideas, we'll consider them. So one of the ideas was a Mayor's commendation. The reason for that, and I'd spoken to a couple of colleagues, councillors, was that I felt that there should possibly be a way of recognising a lot of the work that people do in Frome. It's a sort of unsung hero kind of thing. We have our civic awards at the end of the year, and that's absolutely fine, nothing wrong with that, and those will be awarded as usual. But the Mayor's commendation is something slightly different. My idea was to reward individuals, was to reward organisations. It could be a school pupil, it could be a class in a school, it could be anybody. That would come from nominations. So the person receiving, or the group, or whoever it might be, receiving the commendation wouldn't know about it. So it would be a sort of a bit of a surprise, and it would be done actually at their premises. But this evening, we have somebody with us who will be receiving the first Mayor's commendation. And because of that, we thought it would be fitting, and to make it a bit more of a special event, is to actually invite them along this evening to receive the first ever Mayor's commendation. This person became involved with the Frome Community Fridge in 2018 as coordinator. I think you all know about the community fridge and what a success it's actually been. First set up in 2016 by Frome Town Council and Adventure and a large group of volunteers. And it was a bid to tackle food waste. And then working in conjunction with Loop as well has proved to be a tremendous success. The first of its kind in the UK at the time. So absolutely amazing. Food is brought to the community kitchen by various retail outlets, restaurants, groups, growers, and so on. And it enables people in Frome, anyone in Frome, to come along and take advantage of that food. And also what has happened over the years is to build up networks and to build up connections, very powerful connections. The person I'm talking about, you'll know who it is, recently received a BBC Radio Somerset Award, the Green Award. This person works tirelessly, ensuring that the fridge is always stocked, it's clean, it's tidy, it's welcoming, and the food is constantly refreshed. She's also a person that's very active on social media. I'm sure you've watched loads of her videos, particularly on Instagram and so on. And it just shows the dedication and the effort and the amount of work that she has put in. Her dedication really is second to none, and she is respected by all in Frome and much loved. And the thing that just stands out, and she's doing it now, she just smiles all the time. Such a positive person. So, without further ado, as they say, it really does give me great pleasure to present Terry Pitts with the first Mayor's commendation. We'll do photos in a bit. Terry thought she was coming here to show us her award, which she is. So I'd like her to show us her award and tell us a little bit about it.
Well, that was a shock. I'm not very good at receiving awards. You've most probably seen my Instagram where I received my BBC Make a Difference award, and I didn't accept it on behalf of me, I accepted it on behalf of Frome, because Frome is in my heart and it's what I do, and I just want to help the people of Frome. So in 2018, I became a cell coordinator at the community fridge. Back then I had 12 volunteers, and we collected from about 8 different shops in Frome. So I set about opening the larder to make the community fridge space bigger. I set about recruiting more volunteers and actually making them feel that the community fridge was theirs, because it's for everybody and anybody. I got involved with Fair Share and Neighbourly and told them how amazing community fridges were, and that they should support the work of anybody who wants a community fridge in and around the UK. So the birth of food charity started just with gentle prizing from me and a bit of, come on, we can do better than we are doing, and let's make an example out of Frome. So at the moment, I have 40 volunteers that help me with the community fridge. I don't do it on my own. I wouldn't want to do it on my own. I don't ever seek any reward for doing what I do with the fridge. And we collect from 92 different shops, businesses, schools, nurseries, and places of work in and around Frome. The furthest we go is Bruton. The nearest we go is the local shops. There are a few businesses in Frome that do not help the community fridge, but with gentle persuasion, I'm sure we can make Frome a waste-free town. Obviously, on the green side of things, and how carbon offsetting is a big thing. And we save 4 tonnes a month in food waste in Frome, in just our one community fridge. In January, we will have 3 community fridges in Frome. We will have the one here at the town hall, we'll have the one at the Loop de Loop, and I am headlining to open a community fridge at Frome College, so that they have a space that would serve as a breakfast club where students can come, grab food for free and feed themselves, because 1 in 4 teachers bring in food for children in the UK, and it's absolutely gut-wrenching. And if I could just open a community fridge and make sure that Frome doesn't do that, they're not going to do it. So I was talking to Nikki and Fiona earlier and saying that since I've taken over the community fridge, we've saved all this food. But people don't understand how much food we've saved in 6 years. So think of it like this: 8 Wembley stadiums full of food has been through our food project. 8 Wembley stadiums. People look to us to show them the way, and Frome is at the forefront of saving food waste. So with all this food waste, we can carbon offset it, because we're collecting it, it's not going to landfill, it's not being transported for biofuel. So since I have been in the project since 2018, we have saved 1,109 tonnes of carbon dioxide, which is equivalent to all the car emissions, really. So, you know, community fridge, it might seem like a little project, but actually we're doing big things and we're shaping the UK to make us a better place. And I just wish that every town in the whole UK will follow our lead. So thank you.
Thank you, Terry. This is Frome, yeah. Okay, I did say to Terry, though, earlier on that if she wants to stay for the rest of the evening, it's absolutely fine. But if she wants to sneak away, it's not a problem. Okay, we come to the next item on the agenda. Questions and comments from the public, please. Jill, do you have a microphone? Yes, I do. Thank you.
Can I go back to the thorny object of traffic lights? The traffic lights outside Iceland, again, I need to express an opinion because there has been some digging up of pavements, there's been a collection of workmen in high-vis jackets, and there's been a blocking off of the digital traffic lights, and there have been temporary traffic lights, and much to the excitement of the residents of Frome, they beep. But having got that, that's all out of the way now, we're back to digital traffic lights. And there has been an erection of a box placed in the pavement outside McAllister's, and it's on the curb side of the pavement, I have to say, and I just want to know quite what's been going on, because I did hope that they were going to extend the green man time, but I have timed it again and it is still only 4 seconds. The display, the visual display is, we were hoping to, whether Mr. Wheelhouse or Somerset could relocate the visual display. You've got these waist and hip levels for observation, but we want one across the road so people from the other side of the road can see the you know, the red and the green. And I just wanted to raise that issue. Another issue, just slightly along the pavement, Julian House have erected scaffolding outside their premise, outside the shop, and it is taking up half the pavement. There are 2 diagonal poles, okay, they are all foam wrapped, but push chairs, and I have a friend who has a mobility scooter. She can't get underneath. She can go round. They have left quite a wide part of pavement for pedestrians to walk round, but the pavement is tilted and she doesn't feel safe on her mobility scooter to go around there. So, okay, she does make other arrangements, and I don't know what work is going on that building at Julian House. I got digressing again to the Henley Way area. I got very excited yesterday because Greenbelt, who are based in Glasgow, own a small part of land at the bottom of the large flight of steps. I've informed Mark. Mark has been to have a look at the work because I could not believe it. I had been talking on the phone to a gentleman up in Glasgow, and within an hour of putting that phone down, my neighbour here, Rosie, came to get me to say that there was a man with a strimmer on this piece of land. So we went down and had a chat, and he had been sent an email that morning because he happened to be in the area and clearing another piece of green belt land, and so he was sent to Frome, so to clear the brambles. But he said yesterday he would be coming back today. He has not come back today, and there's still a lot of work to be done because you know, he cleared a huge part. He made a good impression, and I think Mark agrees it's a good start, but these brambles are going to regrow. I mean, the whole area needs to be properly cleared. So I'm going to keep on to Greenbelt, who then told me that they had referred me to their sister office, which happens to be based in Cardiff. And so I have got contacts for both Glasgow and Cardiff now. And so I'm going to keep on until that place is clear and it can be properly looked after. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Jill. Yep. Sarah?
Just, Jill, I know we stopped in the street and had a chat about the lights the other day. So after that happened, I went and did a little test for myself. And you're right, the beep does only go on for 4 seconds, but the red light is red for 10 seconds. So I don't know whether that's a strategy for getting people to hurry across the road, but the light is red for a lot longer than the beeps go on.
Can I come back a minute?
Yep, quickly, yep.
If you walk between the studs, and I think Peter has said this, if you walk between the studs, then you will hold the traffic lights on red. But I don't know for quite how long, though, whether you could stand in the middle of those studs. Didn't you mention that?
Not too long, I hope.
Well, no, because then you are going to cause a problem.
Sorry, I don't know your name.
It's Matt McCabe. Sorry, I had a quick message from the MP Sarah Dyke to say she's met with post office managers and is investigating how services across the area can be improved. And if anyone wants to feed her information about post office provision, her email address is sarah.dyke.mp@parliament.uk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Peter, do you want to?
I just wanted to follow up the comment about the lights and also what Sarah said. I think we gave an indication a couple of council meetings ago that the Somerset Council were planning to change things with the lights, which and they notified us that in fact that had happened. So that was confirmation that they had made some changes, and as Sarah indicated, that the red stays on for longer now than it did before, which holds the traffic. But as far as any additional work or the box is concerned, we would need to find out exactly what that relates to, and happy to pick it up with colleagues in highways on that one.
Weren't you aware of what was going on at the traffic lights and the roadworks and digging up the pavement? Did you not?
We don't get informed about all of the roadworks that go on, unfortunately.
Well, there weren't actual roadworks, but there was a lot of activity going on there, yeah, with the main traffic lights being closed off and these temporary ones put in place. Did you not know about that?
We're not always informed about these things.
I think, Jill, that's something that, as Peter says, we're not always directly informed, but now that we're aware of it, we can actually do something about it and get back to you on that. Okay?
I know I need to be brief on this one, but I don't know why they were there because nothing's changed.
No, neither do we at this stage, so that's something that we'll look into for you. Thank you very much. Adam, is it something on this issue, or we come straight to you for councillors, or both?
Both, I'm happy. I have talked to the Somerset Council Highways officer that deals with traffic lights before, and lots of debate about can we extend the green. 5 emails later, they agreed to extend the red time. So that's why we've got a change, I think, badgering. But if there's any more issues there, I can help Peter with that. And also to find out what the works were, also at Bath Road. A few things. I started writing a long report, and then I didn't have time to write a short one, so I didn't finish it at all, I'm afraid. I've talked to Fiona briefly about the local cycling walking infrastructure plan, and Somerset Council's need to adopt that to take things forward, to be able to try and access active travel funding. Happy to meet about that at some point. There's a creating places for people planning consultation. The deadline is the 16th of this month. Will the Town Council be responding? Question for you. There's also a public inquiry at the end of October about the closure to vehicles proposed at Berkeley Lane and Dark Lane north of Frome to stop fly tipping there, because since the road closure was ended a couple of years ago, fly tipping has increased. You can submit responses as a council and individuals up to the 12th of October now. I have details of that. There's a public notice as well. So please respond if you support that, or even if you don't. Mendip Local Plan Part 2 is incomplete, needs completing. There's a preferred options document with preferred sites to complete the 505 dwelling site allocation by the end of the year. We will know which of the 140 sites that landowners have put forward in the former Mendip district which of those 140 sites are in and around Frome at the end of November, roughly, in some sort of committee. So hang on, we'll find out. I'm in touch with Hanson and Network Rail about the noisy trains at Mill Close and Lower Innock. Some of you will have heard those and been woken up by them if you live there. Why can't they change things till May? What is the Frome Loop all about? I'm trying to have a meeting with them to sort that issue out. We're getting a consultation, a briefing from Somerset Council officers on how and when they consult local people on planning applications, because sometimes, like for billboards, local people aren't informed. And then when you're not informed about something that affects you, you get upset. So we need to go through that. We're having a briefing about that soon. On the local plan, for Somerset, there's going to be no money to spend on a separate climate change development plan document. We heard that this morning, despite trying. There simply isn't the £1 million available for that extra work. But climate policies will be in the local plan in due course, in any case. On the 18th of October, there's a scrutiny committee meeting about water quality. It's particularly about water quality. It will be with Wessex Water, Natural England, Environment Agency, and a couple of experts. So if you want to talk about water quality and why it can't be improved quicker, that's the place to be, online and in Taunton. And Farley and District Swimming Club have submitted their application for inland bathing water status for the River Frome at Farley Hungerford. And if that goes ahead, Wessex Water would need to improve sewage discharges upstream, including in Frome, I expect. And the last thing is the EV charging. I'm on the case that with Somerset, as in why don't our car parks have EV charging? They do elsewhere in the former district. It's because of the DNO, SSE, and there's a problem with the connection and the program for that. But I'm trying to elevate that so we get EV charging at last, and also the charging point at the Cheese and Grain. People need to be stopping getting fines for parking there as part of the officer team and so on. So I'm trying to rearrange the car park designation for that with Cheese and Grain as well.
Thank you very much, Adam.
I think that's it.
Thank you. Nick, did you want to come back on anything before I go to Dawn?
I think the lady in the beautiful iridescent sort of greeny top is before me, and maybe coming back on something.
I see. Up.
Weeds in Frome. It's really terrible all around the town. There's weeds everywhere. Is there anything to be done about it?
Well, I was going to the station on Sunday morning and saw Councillor Shane Collins and Mick Dunk and a team of 3 others doing a sort of a hoedown along Station Approach and opposite along Warbridge and doing that. And they're also making themselves very visible to residents as well and talking to residents and engaging with them.
At the town centre, though, if you walk down Bath Street, there's weeds all the way down Bath Street. St John's Church.
Nick wants to come back on that.
So, thanks very much for that point. It really annoys me as well when you walk around and see the weeds. The good news is we've now, as a town council, found the money to advertise and recruit somebody who will be a town centre ranger. And he joins us on the 16th of this month. And the following week, I'm going to walk around the town with him and point out the areas where I would like him to focus. Weeds are one of the things. The challenge has been for the person whose job it has been is that he has no equipment at all to deal with it. So it'd be hand weeding everything, which would take a long time. So we're looking at getting a useful piece of equipment that will allow it to be mechanically removed. So it is really, absolutely understand it's a priority and important. It has a big impact on the look of the town. And of course the weeds attract litter and so on and so on. So yeah, thanks very much.
Can I go back on that as well? Just to say that the Frome Hoedown on Facebook, which is a group that Philip saw, which is run by Councillor Shane Collins, are always looking for sort of new areas to pay attention to. So if you contact them on there and say that you would like them to look at Bath Street, I'm sure they will be happy to. The point of that is that without it, I think Mendip District Council previously used glyphosate to kill all the weeds, which is obviously incredibly toxic and bad for the environment in many, many different ways. So I don't know quite where we stand on that, but that's what the Hoedown is trying to solve by sort of doing it mechanically.
Thanks, Fiona.
We banned it in 2016.
Yeah. Nick, did you want to come back on anything? Something else?
Yes, a couple of other quick points, please. first one is about 3 years ago, the Boyles Cross space was redeveloped. So I think it's called Phase 2. And at that time, we were going to have 2 courtesy crossing points. Just before they happened, poor Peter Wilhouse had to sort of live with this right up to the last minute. Somerset County Council Highways Department said we couldn't have those crossing points. That was a while ago, and this week I've seen on 3 separate occasions people trying to cross the road, step back, and it's a really, really dangerous 2 points. There's nowhere to cross safely from one side to the other, even if anyone made it all the way down to Jill's crossing point outside Iceland. It's really, really tricky. So can we formally please write to Somerset County Council as a council and ask them to explain why that can't be changed and why we can't have those, and you know, ideally a personal attendance at this meeting or the next meeting. Thank you.
We'll do that. Just one point on that. You've probably noticed this, Nick, and many others may have noticed. The steps leading from that side to cross over to the George, they're actually sloped. And I was contacted by one of my constituents from my ward who actually fell there because it creates a sort of an optical illusion. And you can slide down it. So that's another issue perhaps we could look at.
Yeah, I think where the crossing point was originally, I think it was level actually from outside the front of the George across, and then the other one from the bottom of Stony Street across there. So those are the 2 sort of spaces that were really kind of important.
Thanks, Nick. Just out of courtesy, I'm going to go to Dawn as Adam's had his go, but Dawn has sent a report in, which is online. So we're okay with councillors. Thank you very much. Nikki.
Hi, Adam. I just had a question about the local plan that you just mentioned, the climate development. Is that sort of to replace the sustainable planning, supplementary planning document that sort of Mendip had? Is the idea that that document would be an equivalent for the new local plan, but we can't develop that because of funding? Is that what?
The idea is in the scrutiny papers from 2 weeks ago and the executive papers from this morning. The idea was, well, a Somerset-wide development plan document, effectively a local plan for climate change. That requested at the scrutiny last time. I'm vice chair of that, Martin Dimmery's chair. We asked for that because in the report it specifically said we can't afford it because the local plan process is a 5-year process for the whole of Somerset local plan. It would so that replaces all the district local plans, yeah, which have an expiry date of 2028 and other dates for other districts. And the document you're talking about, that's a supplementary planning document for the Mendip district, yeah, which was to elaborate on what policy DP7, I think, for building, planning new developments, new buildings, and trying to reduce energy conservation, to reduce energy use. So it would effectively replace all the new documents, replace the old documents, yeah, and eventually in their entirety by the end. But I and others wanted a separate climate change document, like they have in Bath and Baines, rather, now, and in Cornwall and Warwick and, yeah, others, thinking that would help because they've already done the evidence base, right? And it's a global thing, it's not so local. But the answer is no, it still takes more time to research a separate document with a separate consultation, separate legal process, and that there isn't the resource in the planning team for Somerset at the moment to do that. But it could be on the local development scheme, which is the programme of all the documents, and the programme for those is under review at all times. So if there's a delay to the whole thing, that might come up again. Okay. Did ask and I'll ask again, but I'm waiting for details of the costs because I'm thinking that's rather high.
It sounded really high, especially as we got really good examples from other places that have already developed similar planning guidance around climate change. So yeah, anything that we can do to help, let me know.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you both very much. Any comments from town councillors? No. Okay, thank you all very much. Okay, brings us on to the next item on the agenda, an update on the Climate and Ecology Emergency Work Programme. I believe Fiona will introduce this item.
Green, lovely. Yeah, so Nikki's going to give the actual update with all the useful information after me. I'm just going to give a bit of a broad overview of the programme and sort of where we're at with it. Oh, is it still? That's better. Okay. Okay. Is that right? It's still making noise. It's still making noise. Well, okay. Is that really annoying? Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's better. Yeah, so I'm just going to give a sort of a bit of a broad overview of where we're at, and then Nikki's going to do the detail. So something that I've said a few times recently is that when I think about this programme, I basically now look at it as an exercise in creativity, because it essentially comes down to how can we affect change with no power and very little money. We are directly responsible for only 0.004% of Frome's carbon emissions as a town council. But we did, when we declared a climate emergency back in 2019, commit to becoming carbon neutral as a town by 2030. But obviously that's not something that we can do for ourselves. So much of our work in this programme is really about sort of trying things and seeing what works, and just trying to look at different ways in which we can affect change and can contribute to what everyone, or not, well, not everyone, but what a lot of people are doing to fight climate action as a town council. We were the first town council to get a resilience manager sort of just under 10 years ago. So there's not really a sort of a blueprint for this. We're sort of learning from other councils, other town and parish councils, and they're hopefully learning from us. But it is, yeah, it's basically, we're just trying to have an impact wherever we can. The work programme and the sort of the work of this team, Nikki's team, the resilience team, is a mix of direct projects, partnerships, advocacy and sort of working with Somerset County Council and other councils, and supporting and enabling community groups. Nikki is going to talk a lot about the projects, many of which we as a new council sort of inherited, and we're sort of already in the work. So it's sort of been about sort of getting them over the line and continuing with them in a little bit. But I did just want to highlight the amount of work that goes into sort of supporting and enabling community groups, individuals, you know, in the town, and also the work with Somerset County Council, because I think it is often quite hidden, and it's not the kind of thing that we can put up on a slide and, you know, say we did this, and this, but it is happening, and I think that is where we are having an impact. One of the things that we have done was back in July, we held a climate action meeting at the Cheese and Grain, which lots of you came along to, so thank you very much. There was 100+ people in the room there, and my sort of word for the event was galvanise. I kept trying to come back to, like, how can we sort of galvanise more action? And there was a lot of energy from that event, a lot of connections made from it, and sort of projects and relationships that have sort of been taken forward. Amanda spoke. She is running the Earth House programme at Frome College, which is a really exciting initiative. Terry is working with her on the community fridge, sort of bringing climate change sort of into the curriculum and onto the campus as well. And I've having a couple of meetings with her and helping her with a few things as well, and sort of trying to connect Frome College a bit more to the sort of the general community climate action happening in the town. We've got an adaptation workshop planned for January, and I think the main thing about that is that climate change is going to affect all of us, however much we might not want to think about it. But it's also not just about climate change, and it's not just about carbon, and that is something that we are really aware of when looking at the sort of the work that we do. We've had lots of conversations recently as a group of councillors around donut economics, and I think if you know anything about that sort of model, climate change is just one of the 12 planetary boundaries that we are currently overstepping on. So it is not just about that. I also think that the social foundation bit of the donut economics model is really interesting as well, and so the work that we're doing with housing associations and on healthy homes is really important there, that this isn't just trying to affect change at any cost, but is also about making sure that everyone in Frome has in that instance, a safe, warm, well ventilated, well heated, cost efficient home to live in. Yeah, so as I said at the beginning, we're trying to do this with no power and very little money. And it's incredibly hard to do that when obviously the people with power and with money are not just not doing anything, but are now actively working against those of us who are trying to do something about this before it is too late. 1.5 degrees is probably already out of reach. Don't know if anyone saw the latest sea temperature changes reports from September. Genuinely terrifying. And I'm just trying to say this not as a sort of, I won't go on too much, but I think it's important to give a bit of context to what we're doing. What we are doing is amazing, and Nikki and her team are doing a fantastic job, but I don't want anyone to be under any illusions that this is enough and that this is going to get us to carbon neutral. And we are doing what we can as a small town council with very little money and no power. But I just want to make that clear that we're not, this isn't going to get us there. And we need system change. So on that, sorry, that's a very negative note to end on. But also, before I hand over to Nikki, Nikki is very sadly leaving us in December to go to Baines. And I just want to thank her for all her hard work over the last 3-4 years, and just say how miss she will be, not just by everyone in the town council, but by so many people in Frome. She has done an incredible job, and I've really loved working with her. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. And yes, this might be my last presentation at a council meeting. So thank you to everybody who has been so supportive over the last 3 years. It's been wonderful. Right, so I'm going to quickly run through some of the highlights from the report. If we've got printouts on the tables of the full sort of breakdown of the projects we're working on, if you missed the paper or wanted to look back at it. But firstly, obviously, the good news is that we do have some funding from the National Lottery as part of the Green and Healthy Frome programme. That's obviously a huge part of our work for the next 3 years. So we were awarded £1.7 million between ourselves, Adventure, and Frome Medical Practice towards the end of last year. That project started in April. It's taken some time to get new people recruited using that funding. So there's now a new full-time project manager at Adventure, Becky Lovegrove, who hopefully will be at a council meeting soon, and Cammy Todd, who is working on comms at Adventure. We've also been able to employ and scale up our own team here as well. And the idea is we did a 2-year development phase for Green and Healthy Frome. Really were able to demonstrate the impact of the project that we're running, which enabled us to kind of get this funding to scale those things up. So the first project that Frome Town Council manages as part of that programme is Healthy Homes, which is our energy advice service in partnership with the Centre for Sustainable Energy. The idea is really we are providing face-to-face drop-ins for people in Frome. So they've been once a month at the library. There'll be 2 times a month across the winter. Really to make people aware of the support that's already available in terms of grants, helping with really basic things like sorting out people's energy bills if they're on the wrong tariff. And we've also been able to employ some volunteers who are all trained to City and Guilds Level 3 energy advice. So they've all got that kind of baseline level of knowledge. They're able to support with the drop-ins, but also do home visits. And we've been really lucky to have some funding from Freco, Frome's Renewable Energy Cooperative, for stuff that we couldn't fund through the lottery. So sort of direct capital funding for LED lights, for radiator panels, for hot water covers, just the really basic stuff that will help people out this winter. While we're helping them with sort of getting grant funding and sort of longer term support. So in this next phase, we're taking on more volunteers. We're hoping to have a volunteer coordinator to sort of help support that so that the team can grow more. There's some new grants available which actually aren't means tested. The majority of grants for energy efficiency in homes are for low income households, quite rightly. But in amongst all the doom and gloom, there is actually a new initiative from government for any houses with an EPC of D or below in council tax plans A to D in England. So we're going to be doing a real push this winter to make sure that everybody's aware that they're eligible to apply for that funding and get as many people as possible grant funding to insulate their homes. And the second part, and this is the new part really for the next phase, which has been enabled by this new grant from the lottery, we've employed a retrofit assessor, Sally Richards, who unfortunately is on leave this week, so couldn't be here, but hopefully she'll be able to come and talk about her work soon. So a retrofit assessor provides a really detailed study of your house in order to create a plan to improve the energy efficiency. And that can be anything from new windows and loft insulation right the way through to really big things like external wall, internal wall insulation. That's something that on the market would cost about £500 to £800. If you wanted a survey of your house, we're able to give those for free for the next 3 years through this project. We haven't even really advertised the service yet, and we've got 40 people on the waiting list, which will keep Sally busy about 5 months. So I don't think we're going to suffer through lack of demand. What we're doing at the moment is looking at how we can best make sure that we can, cover as many properties as possible. We're partnered with the CSE, and we're going to see if we can sort of bring in extra support somehow to manage that. Sally is also planning a retrofit hub. So that's a meeting space within Adventure where people can come and talk about their sort of home projects that they're working on, a bit of sort of peer-to-peer learning, rather than it just being a top-down, I'm the expert and I'm going to tell you what you need to do. It's about kind of sharing people's own experiences, being able to share if they've had a good experience with a contractor, for example. As a town council, we can't necessarily recommend companies, but people can recommend to each other. So it's having that sort of network of learning. And even though retrofit is sort of, you might think it's a bit techie and not the sort of thing that people might come out for, it's actually the future shed that's been most subscribed so far. So we've got about 23 people on the list to come, and it's on the 1st of November. So it might be quite a big room by the time we get there. And we mentioned social housing earlier. One other thing that we're doing is it actually came out of the back of the climate meeting that we had back in July, where I think Mick Dunk put his hand up and asked a question about social housing. Usually, if you live in social housing, you're not eligible for some of the grants that a private household would be eligible for, unfortunately. It really is down to the social housing providers to be upgrading their properties. So we went out to contact all of the providers in Frome to find out how many have a property EPC-D or below and what they are planning on doing about it. They have a legal obligation to upgrade them by 2030, but if people are cold now, then 2030 is a long way off. So we've secured meetings with 3 out of 4 of those providers to see if we can work with them and what we can do about it. The other scheme that we run as a town council through Green and Healthy is Cycle Together, which is the e-bike loan scheme. People can have an e-bike for a month and they can get free cycle confidence classes as part of that. We've had about 100 people go through that scheme in the first 2 years. In this next phase, we've linked with the new Frome Community Bike Project, who are just setting up at the station, having finally got their planning permission granted. And that's enabled us to have a lot more space. So we've already ordered 8 more bikes, so we've got 14 now available to the Frome community. So that will scale up the amount of people who are able to take part in that, because we've always had a really long waiting list. It also means that we're going to look at targeting organizations, so employers, if you have a group of staff who maybe want to try it for a month together, ride to work together, or kind of share their experiences in a business or another organization, and also reaching out to the parishes, our surrounding parishes as well. Obviously, connectivity between parishes and Frome is something that comes up massively. And we're also able to add on maintenance classes, so you can learn how to fix your bike, and also social rides to that program. Safer School Streets is probably the biggest project that we've been working on for the last few years, and it really has been years. We're about 18 months over the original delivery deadline for this project, and that's partly been because it's the first of a kind in Somerset, and we've been trying to find a way to deliver it with the Highways Department for quite a long time. We've gone through a Section 278 process, which is the same process that the Town Council used to deliver Marketplace. It's incredibly time consuming. It's taken us about a year to get through the kind of technical audit process. We had a grant from Somerset Council of 100k for capital infrastructure. Over half of that's been taken back in sort of admin fees related to the Section 278, legal fees, etc. So there's been a lot of learning there in terms of how we might want to do things in the future, but we're really pleased to say that the infrastructure will be delivered by the end of this year. We're looking at probably a November start date for the build out. And then because we can't start an active travel scheme in the middle of winter, the actual timed closure, the trial itself, will begin after the Easter holidays. But that's a definite time frame now, because we've had to sort of push things back a lot. So we're really pleased that we're able to finally get that over the line. And we've been working with Sustrans, the cycling and active travel charity. So they are also highways engineers. They've designed the project for us. They've also brought in extra funding because they run the National Cycle Network, or they're custodians of the National Cycle Network. So they've brought in extra funding for a quiet way along Oakfield and Somerset roads. So that's to make those roads safer for cycling as well. And the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan. Thank you, Adam, for what you said earlier. What Adam was alluding to is the fact that this is kind of old news and that we finished this project towards the start of this year in terms of developing the plan, but actually we don't know what happens next in terms of how we actually get the recommendations delivered. Obviously, Somerset's developed Delty whips for Bridgewater, Taunton, Yeovil. I think there's also ones for Wells and Glastonbury now, so it's really sort of understanding the process of how funding is going to be brought in, what's the process for prioritising that, who gets to go first, and what can we do to kind of speed that up and make sure that all of the work that we put into that actually transpires into safer walking and cycling networks for Frome. So that's still, even though we finished the report, it's still a really big priority going forward in terms of how we now get that delivered. Some really nice news on biodiversity. Last month we hosted the biggest ever bat count in Somerset bat history, with over 50 volunteers taking part and about 169 bats recorded over the space of one evening. So that was really positive. We've also been awarded the Bee Friendly Town status this year in recognition of the work that our rangers, but also the Wild Bunch and other voluntary groups in town have done to support pollinators. And we've got about 3,000 observations now on iNaturalist, which is the app we're using with the community to register to log species. So our officers have been doing work with schools and with community groups, training people up how to use the app and holding sessions. And what that's doing, it's, as well as being a really nice bit of citizen science, what that's doing is giving us a really strong data for our kind of baseline for biodiversity. And we can feed that into our management plans for our green spaces. We can hopefully use that to help other ecology projects. There might even be use in planning, I'm not sure, later down the line, but it just gives us a really strong evidence base for what we're seeing. And hopefully, if we keep measuring that year on year, it will go up. So in terms of next steps, as Fiona mentioned earlier, our actual carbon footprint as a town council is like a minuscule part of Frome's emissions, but they're the bits that we have direct control over. And obviously our assets have expanded. So what I'd like us to do in the next year is have a proper decarbonisation plan to get us to 2030 for our whole operations, including the football club and the cheese and grain, because it's really important to lead by example. And that's something that's directly in our control. Obviously, the School Streets trial will start in April next year, so that will be an 18-month project, as well as delivery of Green and Healthy Frome. So there are two big things that will continue into the next work programme. I've also been working with other teams across the council. We're talking about starting to look at engagement for the new strategy and donor economics, as Fiona mentioned earlier. So that's tied really into resilience, and that's something we're looking at together. And we're also hoping to hold a climate adaptation workshop early next year, in recognition, as Fiona said, of the fact that as much as, even if we got to net zero by tomorrow, the global picture is still, very, very concerning. So we need to look at seriously what that means for Frome, what we might experience in terms of heat, in terms of floods in the future, in terms of migration, and how we how we adapt to that so that we can still thrive as a town. So that's how we want to do a bit of a workshop and engagement on that so that we can bring that into our strategy really clearly. So I think that's it. If you've got questions, let me know.
Andy and Nick.
Hi, thanks for that really good update. you'll remember from all those years ago when we started talking about safer school streets, one of my pet deliverables from that is improvements to the safety of crossings at either end of that quiet way, so over at the Butts and on Broadway. Can you tell me what the status of those is, please?
Yes, so those crossings were the number one thing that people raised to us when we started doing consultation on this scheme. And obviously our original budget for the scheme was about 100k. Those areas aren't suitable for a kind of informal or courtesy crossing because they're too unsafe. We need actual controlled zebras there, preferably pelicans. Yeah, so we couldn't deliver it within the budget of the scheme because we need proper controlled crossings there. So what Sustrans have done, because both of those locations on the National Cycle Network have gone away and applied for more funding to actually deliver those junctions. They've already designed them up. And we received confirmation yesterday that they've actually got through and they've been provisionally awarded the money to actually build those junctions, but that is contingent on Somerset being able to deliver them and deliver them by September 2024, so September next year. We've put that to our contacts who are working with on school streets within Somerset, but we're yet to have a response on whether that's actually deliverable. Given that we've been told quite clearly that there's not much budget at the moment for highway work, so if we want stuff done, we need to bring in the funding ourselves, and we've been able to do that. Hopefully the response will be yes, absolutely, but we don't have a response yet. So anything that anyone can do to to raise support for that would be very, very appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam, for your patience.
Thanks, Adam.
I think Nick, please.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Fiona and Nikki. Just a couple of things. Well, crossing points. The one that I don't see mentioned is the one crossing Bath Street from St John's Church into Palmer Street. There's hundreds of people who cross it every day, including a lot of school children on their way up the hill. And that's one where there's a crossing point about 50 metres further up the road that no one ever uses. The main point is, and maybe this is more for adventure or somebody, but with my work in the town centre and this issue around rubbish as well as the weeds and so on, and something that really strikes me every time I walk around there, because you start noticing, is the commercial bins that are all around the town centre. There are, when I last checked this, there are 11 different private contractors picking up the commercial waste from our town centre businesses, which to me is crazy. Somerset Waste Partnership have a fleet of vehicles that collect rubbish, but not the commercial waste. And maybe we could ask, some kind of project or something, maybe Adventure would be the right people to look at a business change in how Somerset deal with waste in Frome that would involve one vehicle a day going around at 6 in the morning, just picking up from where the current commercial wastes are in those big containers. Because what happens is they get filled up and then people dump their own waste on top and they become so unsightly. So the idea of 11 different people or companies picking up waste on different days and people having to leave them outside some of the commercial food premises, in spite of Ben's best attempt to put everything through the loop, is an issue, but there's other waste. So maybe that's something that could be looked at. I appreciate you'll probably be gone, but that may be something that would be helpful. And my last point, you talk about apps. Have you got the app Bugs Matter? It's a great app called Bugs Matter. If you take a photo of the front of your car with this app, and then you go on a journey, when you come back, you take another photo, records how many bugs you splattered on the front of your car. Obviously, it's not good to splatter them, but it's a way to measure how many bugs get splattered. Thank you.
And if you ride your bike, then you're probably not splattering as many bugs. I might ask, Ben, did you want to come back on that? Okay, cool. I was just wondering if you wanted to respond in terms of Luke, because I know that you guys, when you started collecting food waste, had to look into sort of the licenses and that kind of thing that were needed to do that. I think it would probably, what you're suggesting, I think we need to go to Somerset Waste Partnership because I think it would be too big a scale for a sort of community project, but I think we need to have the conversation, absolutely. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Ben?
Hi, Nikki. I was just wondering if there's any more updates around what we're doing with food resilience beyond the amazing work with the loop-to-loop building now being kind of regenerated, but is there any sort of more in-depth stuff that's happening in that space?
Yes. So we, so on many different, it's a difficult thing because food resilience sort of encompasses quite a lot of different things. It's sort of food waste, what Nikki is doing, and also sort of food growing, both sort of commercial and community. So obviously Hugh, leading the Frome Food Network, he is working with Rob on a food resilience strategy for Frome at the moment. In terms of community growing, obviously we've got Broadway Community Garden, which we bought back in February, and which is we're seeing sort of developing as a bit of a sort of a hub for community growing and learning and composting in Frome. We've got funding for another smaller community garden, potentially in a very different area of Frome, St John's, where there's 70% of it's on a housing estate where 70% is social housing, very high levels of isolation and mental health issues, which is really exciting. And I've got my eye on lots of other bits of land as well, as obviously God. And then in terms of the market guiding, there's lots of stuff happening. Sort of, it's one of those things where it's sort of, yes, but it's sort of us enabling and working with other community groups rather than doing stuff directly other than Broadway Community Garden at the moment. There was a very interesting social enterprise at Local Futures that I'm going to try and set up a meeting with Hugh with, which supports growers to get their food to local communities, which is really interesting. And I've had quite a few meetings with sort of market gardeners recently. So there's lots happening, but it's not a sort of deliverable.
Great, thank you, Fiona. Mark.
Thank you, Nikki. Excellent. Just a quickie where you may get fobbed off with something. It'll be because of budgets, but it might be because of this. When in 2018 I became a councillor, I got given the gift of sorting out the parking in Somerset Road and Weymouth Road, and came into a lot of contact with people in that area. So Water Lane into Somerset Road, a lot of people said, why can't we have a crossing there? Because kids use it all the time and they have to run across the road and it's really quite dangerous. I asked the then, careful what I say here, I asked the then Somerset County Councillor to make inquiries on our behalf. Why can we please have a crossing there? He was very quickly fobbed off by highways saying because of traffic coming from the top of the butts down and almost a bit of a blind bend and distances and visual splay and all the other stuff that they come up with, it was quickly kicked into touch. I hope things have changed and that we can get a crossing there because there's been a demand for it for years. But it may be, if you don't get it, they won't see it's because of finance, which they don't want to give out, but because of that.
Yeah, so Sustrans obviously are also highways engineers and designers. So what they're going to do, or what they possibly already have done, I'm not sure, is put their designs, their kind of high-level designs through a road safety audit. It's just so we have an independent view on that. We'll see what comes back from that.
Great, thank you very much. Can I just thank Fiona and Nikki for an excellent update? And can I say as chair, thank Nikki, as this may well be the last time that she presents at a full council meeting. Thank her for all her hard work and all the success that she has achieved while here at Frome Town Council, and continued success in your new position. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Item 5, an update on Frome's Welcome and Community Hubs. Nikki Cox, please.
Hello. You don't have to be called Nikki to work at Frome Town Council, but it does help. So as a partnership lead, I just wanted to give you a brief update on the Welcome Hub for displaced people in the town and the vision for the Frome Community Hub, so the wider one, to give you some context to the paper that you've got, or should have read. Might have read. We've been granted extension funding from CARIS to deliver the Welcome Hub for displaced people. So this is including all refugees and asylum seekers across Frome and the surrounding area, and that is in until March 2025. I put 2015 here. So the distinction about this is that actually it's working with all displaced people. So we instead of just being having a remit for refugees, it's about asylum seekers. We don't know what that's going to look like. So at the moment, Somerset Council resettlement team are saying that there's 400 asylum seekers coming to Somerset. Where they will be, we don't know. But in terms of extending that welcome, we are ready. So that means that there's a continuation of my colleague Irina's post as a hub advice officer, and that we've been able to extend it to having another 18.5 role, which has just been accepted today, so we can update you a little bit more next time. So we're ongoing working with the resettlement team and also the housing team, which means that they sit with us in the welcome hub, so that when people come in, we're able to respond there and then, which has been great. We are putting a little bit of pressure on Homes for Ukraine to try and keep that person with us in the home, in the hub, but we're waiting to see what that looks like. What else have we done? Oh, so we've brought in the ESOL lessons into the town hall. So we've got ESOL lessons running across the week. Some are groups and some are individuals. So that just means that we've got a real influx of people coming in and out of the town hall. Yes, there you go. English speakers of other languages. Sorry, I should have clarified that. We've also got some wellbeing sessions that are running out of the Welcome Hub, primarily for people from Ukraine, but with therapists who are Ukrainian, and that's in its third week and seems to be having quite a, people are coming, which is great. In terms of the further Frome Community Hub offer, Melody continues as the Connect Somerset champion and the Children and Young People's Officer for Frome Town Council. So really enhancing that early intervention service provision and funding to support organisations to in the locality to come into the community hub. We've got Prosper Frome coming in. We've got Citizens Advice, and we've got Somerset Information Advisors who are in the town hall providing weekly face-to-face support. We've also got the health visitors who are providing a weekly service in the Elliott building where the Fair Frome used to be, still run the pantry. So in terms of the service provision, we're kind of linking together. So we're having ongoing conversations with Fair Frome about extending the use of that building. And we have just set up a website today, not a website, a link there. Sorry. Shall I carry on talking? Okay. So in terms of next steps, so with the Welcome Hub, we are collaborating with the village agents to make sure that when our Ukrainian refugees move from host families to independent living, that they have 3 months of support for ongoing things that will be happening in the home, like setting up telephones or council tax, so that people can have that kind of support, because to understand the processes that are really complicated in this country. And discussions with Somerset Parent Carer Forum and Young Parents Group to provide ongoing support groups in the town hall. And we're doing the initial prep work for the consideration of an application for funding for a role to enhance community development work in the rural communities in collaboration with the LCN and parish stakeholders. And there's a proposal for a project development worker. It's subject to funding from Connect Somerset to enhance the digital find information directory, so that we've got somebody in place to look at the digital offer, but actually be there in person. So this service delivery model will ensure that both universal and targeted services are available to the community in Frome at a central location in partnership with other key locations such as the library. It'll reduce the need for crisis intervention and be a more inclusive offer for Frome. It's not a new or experimental idea. It's been done and it's successful, and the benefits work alongside the concept of social prescribing and early intervention. And the aspiration and the vision is that the town hall will increasingly become an established community asset where people are welcomed and supported in a meaningful, respectful and inclusive manner. And just before I finish, there is a showing of Mavka, which is an animation with a Ukrainian director that we've managed to get to the Merlin Theatre. It's on Friday the 13th, and tickets are on sale. We really want to make sure people are there. We are giving obviously free places for the displaced community, but if you want to support, please go and watch. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Nikki. Any questions? Polly, please.
The citizens' advice, is that now, because originally it was just referral, is that now public?
It's drop-in.
Okay, so we can recommend that to anybody now?
Absolutely, yeah.
But the customer services from Somerset Council, that's referred?
No, that's drop-in.
That's drop-in as well. So anybody with any problems associated with homelessness or that, what else would you say?
It can be to do with anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the Somerset advisors were in the library, and they've just come up on a Monday to kind of have that kind of collective. So they're working together.
So benefit anything.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. I think that's really good for the town hall and people getting to know what we're here and being more of a welcoming building. So I think that's a really good advancement.
Polly, a really important point. Fiona.
It's slightly picking up what on Polly said. I completely understand. I do agree. I think it's great in terms of the town hall, but I do also worry that the town hall is quite an intimidating building, and I'm not sure that many people or that everyone feels like that they are able to walk up the steps. Well, actually, wheelchair access is around the back as well, so they can't. And so I don't know. I'm sort of conflicted because I do think it's great that this is all going on, but I guess long term, is there an idea to sort of have it in another building? And short term, is there anything we can do that will really make it clearer that this is a really welcoming space? I have mentioned having sofas and settees before and got told no, but bunting, beanbags on the window, anything that just kind of makes it feel a bit less formal.
We are talking to the comms team about that and what it looks like. That is an interesting point that you say about it being kind of a corporate building. But actually what we've found, especially when we set up the Welcome Hub, is if we are there long enough and we are consistent and it's not necessarily the building, but the people that make the hub.
Okay.
People are coming. And that's our intention. And it's not exclusively at the town hall. We want to work with the village agents, with the library. So it's just another place. I mean, ideally we would have a community space, but we haven't got one.
No. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nikki. Great, thank you for a really important and interesting update. Thank you very much. Okay, people, we come to the end of our public part of this evening's meeting. So I will thank members of the public, members of the press, anyone who is not a town council or a member of staff for attending this evening. We'll take a... I was coming to that. We'll take a 2-minute break after we've voted to go into private session. Anne, would you like to propose that, please? Thank you so much. Seconded by Fiona. So thank you, members of the public, for coming. Thank you, those online. I think we'll have 2 minutes break so Sarah can sort out the IT if any councillors are online. Thank you all very much.
Can I just say that before everybody disbands, was anyone aware of Escape to the Country yesterday? Coming from Somerset, and the couple from Hazelmere in Surrey bought a house in the Old Marston Lane. And June, we watched that programme. I watched it today and you watched it yesterday. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jill. We're going to rush back and watch that.
Some lovely pictures of Frome.
Thanks a lot.